Okay, I think we're good to get started. So, yeah, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us today. Just to introduce myself, I'm Aaron Rossi, and I'm the Senior Director of Key Accounts, Sales and Partnerships at Payoneer. Absolute pleasure to be here and to have this opportunity to introduce this webinar to all of you. So for those who don't know, Payoneer, we're an international payments company specifically focused our solution on small businesses that trade globally, both import and export, but with specific focus on those who are running their business digitally, either selling on digital marketplaces or perhaps running some type of your business digitally. So we've actually had a really great relationship and partnership with Pinterest and Paul's team, who we've got here today, for probably about 18 months or so now. What we have seen is a massive trend with our customer base, who started to look to diversify their advertising channels to a more omni-channel approach. And our relationship with Pinterest is a big part of that. We've seen our customers start to have a lot of success and traction in terms of advertising on the Pinterest platform. And this is a part of what today's session is about, really, is to give Paul and Pinterest the opportunity to present to everybody some of the benefits of the Pinterest platform for your business. We do have a really great exclusive offer as well for you guys and for Payoneer customers, which Paul will talk a little bit more about. But it's essentially for those of you who starts advertising on Pinterest in Q2, if you spend more than 5K in advertising within Q2 for Pinterest, then you'll get $1,000 in free advertising. So it's a really great incentive. So yeah, enough about me. I'm going to hand over to Paul. He's going to give his presentation, and then we'll leave some time at the end for questions. So Paul, hand it over to you.
Thanks, Aaron. Great to meet you all, and thanks for having me on. Looking forward to bringing you through this. For those of you, obviously, who are using Pinterest or are using digital channels, hopefully you'll get a ton of value from this session. So as Aaron mentioned, my name's Paul. I've been at Pinterest for about 3.5 years. Before that, I was at LinkedIn for about 5 years on our ads business there. And I look after some of our e-commerce partnerships in Europe. So as I said, pleasure to be here today, and I'm looking forward to bringing you through the next sort of 45 minutes or so. So just gonna, I suppose, start things off and I suppose lay a bit of foundation for sort of what's to come. And I suppose I want to start with sort of outlining what Pinterest is as a platform. So it's a bit unique in terms of it's not necessarily a social media platform as we sort of know it today. But it does sit within a sort of unique position in the overall, across overall digital channels, and hopefully that will come through over the next couple of slides. So really what we're going to do today is focus in on what Pinterest is, what it can do as a platform for businesses, and what the capability looks like under the hood in terms of the ad formats and the measurement side of things. And then we can go into sort of what that offer looks like, as Aaron mentioned. So as a platform, Pinterest, as I mentioned, isn't necessarily social media. And if you've ever used Pinterest yourself as a consumer, you'll pretty much get this. But it's a platform that folks come on to get inspiration around specific categories. And what that means from an advertiser perspective is obviously folks are coming to the platform with commercial intent in mind, and they're coming to engage specifically within a specific category. So where does that mean we sit in, I suppose, this overall ecosystem from a digital perspective? So we would just define ourselves as a platform as a visual discovery engine. And really the sort of characteristics that sort of back into that are, folks come onto Pinterest with a category in mind. They'll come on to search for an idea as opposed to a brand or a product. And our platform is, nearly 100% visual as well. So again, there's a ton of sort of ideas and possibilities that people can search for on the platform. And that sets us aside from, as I mentioned, other social media platforms, search, etc. In terms of who's on Pinterest and the scale we have currently, so we're just sitting under 500 million monthly active users. And, we're a global platform. So obviously the bulk of our user base sits in the US. But really what we've seen over the last specifically 18 months to 2 years is massive growth in international markets, and opening up new ad auctions globally as well. So we're not just a US platform anymore. We're not just a small platform anymore. We're really a platform that you can use to acquire new customers in specific pockets and demographics across all markets that you're selling into. If we look at the US specifically, you can see through the different cuts of data here what our demographic actually looks like. And I think the thing to sort of point out here is that we have a diverse and a very sort of developed demographic. And again, this is sort of the evolution of Pinterest over the last couple of years, where we were specifically just a sort of a female-only platform. We are now seeing more male users on the platform, and we're seeing younger users come onto our platform as well. Something else to sort of bear in mind as well as a reason to sort of adopt our platform moving forward is the crossover or lack thereof that we have with other developed platforms that you're probably more used to. So you can see obviously Facebook's scale and size, even though Facebook have a sort of over 2 billion monthly active users, there's still 20% of folks who are on Pinterest but not necessarily using Facebook on a daily basis. And you can see how that looks across the other social media channels, moving from Instagram to TikTok, Twitter, and Snapchat, and so on. So there is, as I said, a unique behavior on Pinterest, but there's also an incremental audience that you can tap into as well. And just because you're advertising on Facebook doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't advertise on Pinterest. And hopefully that will come through over the next couple of slides. So as I mentioned at the offset, our platform is really a platform that people use to discover new ideas and to delve into specific product categories. And as I go through the next couple of slides, that will come through and show you the ad formats that we have in terms of our capability. But when we speak to our pinners and we ask them what they use the actual platform for, 89% will say that of our weekly pinners will say that they use Pinterest in order to fuel an inspiration or to bring them on that path to purchase during a purchase cycle. So again, in the majority of the behavior that we see on our platform is backed with commercial intent. In addition to that, we have a user base with a high disposable income or a high income threshold. So again, from a user perspective, we're reaching folks that have a high income bracket in the US. And, as I mentioned there earlier, a younger demographic, millennials and below, with higher income brackets as well. So again, you're reaching folks who are leaned in, who have intent, and they have that disposable income to engage with brands and buy those products as well. Pinterest is also a platform that people use across a multitude of use cases. So there are specific reasons why folks will open up Pinterest, and they will vary from that sort of everyday occasion, browsing within categories for home decor, garden inspiration, fashion and retail, and then also for evergreen occasions or special occasions throughout the year. So, using our platform for inspiration around, recipe ideas, going out ideas, weddings, big tentpole occasions that, as a brand, you can speak and you can be front and center when folks are in that buying, that decision-making process. So what we sort of say is, moments are actually made on Pinterest. And if you think of the buyer journey and how people use Pinterest, they'll use it at the very beginning of the buyer journey when they want inspiration or they want to be inspired around a certain category. And I have life moments, unique moments, seasonal moments sort of spun out here. When we come up to, big occasions throughout the year, be it sort of Christmas, summer, Valentine's Day, which is just gone, Mother's Day, which is just gone. We see massive surges in our traffic, and we see those surges in our traffic earlier than we see them on other platforms as well. So, you know, as a brand, that means you're uniquely positioned to engage these folks with when they're at the very beginning of the buyer journey, as I mentioned, to actually capture their attention and to move them through your purchase funnel early. And that, as a platform, we're unique in that sense. You can't necessarily do that on Facebook, on TikTok, on Twitter, on Pinterest. People come to plan those occasions, they come to plan those purchases. And as a brand, leveraging our capability, you'll be able to reach them early and engage them early. I've mentioned a couple of occasions there and a couple of moments throughout the year where people begin that planning process. And as I mentioned, as a brand, you're able to get to them before competitors do. So if you look at Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and the holiday period, which would be, you know, the lead up, I suppose, to Christmas as well, you can see how our search behavior evolves versus the likes of Google or Amazon or other search engines. People come to those search engines or engage in those platforms when they've made the buying decision, or they've built up that decision-making set or that consideration set of brands. Whereas on Pinterest, they haven't done that yet. They're coming to the platform to ask the platform what those products should be. And again, we have search keywords that you'll be able to target by in order to reach people who are in this planning mindset. I mentioned sort of the behavior and the uniqueness of our behavior on the platform, and I mentioned search. So obviously, again, if you've ever used our platform as a consumer, you'll know that Pinterest, you can either sort of use it in a passive sense through browsing through content, or you can actually search for specific themes and categories within our platform as well. And when we look at those searches on Pinterest, we see that 97% of them are all unbranded. And what that tells us is people, yes, they know what category they sort of know what they want, but they haven't made up their mind from a brand perspective yet what they want to actually engage in. When we ask those pinners, when they're considering what to buy and the products and services they want to engage with, 84% of pinners will say that they use our platform when they're doing that consideration process and they're doing that planning process. And again, when we look at our data and you see when that planning starts, you know, this shouldn't be too much of a surprise. And then on a weekly basis, when we actually ask pinners about purchases they've made, 83% will say that they've made a purchase based on an ad or an organic piece of content that they've seen from a brand on Pinterest. And again, you know, this is raw data, it doesn't tend to change. Our path to purchases is super robust. And, you know, as a brand, you can be front and center and engage those users when they're in the right moment to convert. Our platform has made a lot of changes over the last couple of certainly 18 months, but over the last couple of years, adding in new formats and so on, and developing out our e-commerce capability as well. And what we see on our platform is that it typically takes half the impressions to convert someone on Pinterest than it does on other forms of social media. And what that comes down to is video, as well as our static image. And I'll show you a bit more of that in a couple of slides time. But when folks see an ad on Pinterest, you know, the view through rate is about 3 times higher than it is on other social platforms. What we see on our platform as well from a video perspective is that there's an increase in 28% of the searches for video specific content year on year. Folks are creating more video on our platform. There's nearly 800% increase year on year in folks creating video content. And then we're seeing nearly, you know, 964 million video views a day. So this is, you know, if we're thinking about advising you on your first campaign, having video integrated in with our other ad formats is going to help you stand out from other brands and other players on our platform. The reasons for this are quite simple. You know, it all comes back to sort of inspiration and discovery and people using our platform to uncover new ideas. And video speaks to that in a sense. And again, if you're launching new products or you're launching a new brand on our platform, video is a great way to stand out. I won't read through any of these here, but you can see in some cases in terms of discovering new ideas, it's nearly double that of other platforms. And then from a take action perspective, which obviously would be whatever you're trying to drive on the website, or wherever you're trying to push from a product perspective. Nearly half take action versus other our competitive set. I noticed there's a couple of questions popping in, and I'm gonna take them at the end if I may. But I just want to bring you through a case study first before we move on to product format, and I'll address one of the questions around interactive content in a second. But the first up is just to show you, and is a success story or a case study focused in on conversion optimized bidding and driving sales through our platform, which is what I'm assuming a lot of folks on the webinar want to actually do. So the brand is Manscaped. A lot of you folks may have heard of them. They're based in the US. They're sort of a men's grooming product. And who they wanted to reach on our platform was men between the ages of 18 and 45. So again, not the typical demographic on Pinterest, but certainly a sizable audience that folks will be able to reach. And you know, and again, I'm going to sort of weave in what capability we have on our platform here, but what did they actually do to reach this audience and to convert this audience? They ran automatic bidding with conversion optimized bidding. So setting in a CPA goal on our platform and telling our platform what they were willing to spend for a conversion, and allowing our platform to auto optimize their bids. So in a nutshell, our platform did a lot of the heavy lifting for this brand, and enabled them to scale up and convert folks who are most likely to engage or most likely to convert based on data on their tag. So what this yielded in terms of results for the client was a 20% increase in their ROAS, a 37% increase in their click-through rate, and most importantly, their cost per acquisition target dropped by 17%, which, you know, for a first campaign on the platform is quite impressive. And really, you know, the way, as I sort of mentioned there, the way they were able to sort of achieve this was by letting our algorithm take control of the bidding, letting it, you know, find those people who are, or those prospects and customers who are most likely to convert. And then with their social teams coming in, and with the support of our teams internally, you know, tweaking and fine tuning different sort of aspects of their campaigns to sort of drive down their costs over time. So again, you know, send all of this through after the call. It's sort of a good cheat sheet, I suppose, for a first campaign, but three things here really: automatic bidding, broad targeting, and targeting based on the appeal to that audience. So thinking about the creative that you have and the product proposition that you're trying to push, and then mapping back your targeting based on those particular products. That is the way to see success on our platform. I'm going to jump into capability now over the next couple of slides, and specifically over the next few slides talk about ad formats. And really, our ad formats can be broken into two. First is our sort of conventional ad formats, and then second would be our shopping or our e-commerce solutions, which I'll bring you through in a bit more depth. So just to sort of, I suppose, highlight how your ads will show up on Pinterest, and working from left to right here, we have our different formats. So first is static promoted pin, which you can see on the left-hand side as you view the screen. And then you're moving into video, carousel, and collections unit lastly. And the good thing about all of our formats is they can be used across the funnel. So they can be used for multiple objectives. And all you really need to do is sort of just tweak messaging, tweak call to action, and align towards our best practice in order to achieve the outcomes that you want to actually achieve. So I'm going to speak to each format and just draw out certain watch outs and best practice. But really, you know, from a standard promoted pin perspective, what we get advertisers to do is to really balance between lifestyle and product in the one format, or in the one image. And there's things that, you know, folks will need to do, or creative teams will need to do on Pinterest versus other channels, such as the aspect ratio and having branded overlay on the actual image itself. And these are things that maybe Facebook would advise against, but on our platform we advise for is to have that branded overlay, to, you know, to have product prominence in shot. and to have a strong call to action as well, based on the objective that you're trying to achieve. So again, if it's awareness right down to driving conversions, the format or the actual the tone of the ad itself will be super important. Secondly is video. And again, video can be used in a max width format, which is what is shown here, or in a standard width format, which was just the promoted pins aspect ratio, but obviously in video form. And from a recommended length, we're talking about 6 to 15 seconds. We're talking about having product in shot, and also, having that strong call to action as well in terms of what you're trying to get the prospect or the customer to actually do. And you can see here from Ren's following on our best practice, and having that strong call to action of shop now towards the end of the or buy now, sorry, towards the end of the actual video itself. And again, this is a high impact format that will stand out in the feed and draw attention. Additionally to that, we would have carousel, and again, a brilliant format if you're looking at retargeting, or you're looking at actually trying to tell a story or showcase a number of different products or product features in the one format itself. And again, this can be used across the funnel. So if it's an awareness campaign right down to actually driving conversions and checkouts and sales, carousel, based on how you sort of design for and what tone you want to have with that audience, can be used across those different stages of the funnel. So again, a really high impact format, a relatively new format on Pinterest, and one that a lot of advertisers are seeing success with. And then lastly, in terms of our standard formats, we've got a collections ad unit. So, again, this is super, this combines, using our product feed, which I'll come on to in a second, or your product feed, I should say, and marrying that up with a hero image. So again, you can see here from, from Page's Pantry, hero image, and then the product feed is sort of rolled in underneath, which is combining two of our formats essentially. I can see a couple of questions in here. One around, can you use GIFs? Yes, you can. So you would upload that via a video ad format and select that when you're an ads manager. But the answer to that question is yes, you can. And again, the likes of GIFs will stand out in the feed, and sort of hits that sweet spot of sort of under 6 seconds or so in terms of play time. So yeah, you can use GIFs. I'm going to come on to shopping now, and again, if you've questions, just pop them into the chat and I'll get to them. But shopping is probably a format that I'll be recommending if all of you maybe sort of adopt, and it's something that you're able to do straight away in terms of uploading a product feed and pushing your product feed or amplifying your product feed across our ecosystem. And again, shopping is unique in a sense that once your product feed is ingested, all of those product pins will be auto-created on your profile, and you'll be able to spend and put money in behind those those product pins and that shopping feed, to sort of drive conversions across a number of different audiences. So I mentioned a number of stats around sort of shopping on Pinterest and sort of how people are using the platform, and how they're engaging with e-commerce on our platform. When we look at, again, certain path to purchase analysis, and we look at fashion and beauty, this stat shows us that 85% of the baskets on Pinterest are larger than baskets on other platforms. And again, the reason for this is primarily down to the endemic nature of our platform across specific categories. And I can see a question in here around a product category or a vertical. But where categories are endemic, where there's traffic and search behavior around specific categories, in a lot of cases, we tend to see that engagement right through to sort of basket size, right through to the average order value that is driven on our platform tends to be higher than other channels. I'll come back to the question in the chat in a second, but just want to show how shopping ads again show up on Pinterest. And I mentioned earlier around one of the first steps being adding your product feed to your Pinterest profile. And what that will do is will auto create SKUs based on your product feed. So depending on the number of products you have on that product feed, they'll all pre-populate on your Pinterest profile, and you'll be able to create ads like this on the left here. So again, expanding that out, visiting directly from a scroll up, and either adding to cart or transacting on the actual website itself. We have a number of different things coming down the line, and they're actually launching in this quarter. So the first is product details, and adding in things like shipping info, reviews, and promotions directly onto the actual onto Pinterest itself on platform. And then additionally, we're adding in an in-app checkout experience as well. So if you've ever been on Pinterest and you tried to buy something, but you just couldn't do it, or you've been brought to a dead link, etc., this will solve for that specific use case. And again, we'd encourage you all to adopt this and see how you get on from a testing perspective, because what we've seen so far from our beta tests have been really promising results for advertisers across multiple verticals. I mentioned collections ads earlier. This is again marrying up the product feed with a hero image. And again, you can see here how this collection ads unit plays out, and how engaging it actually is. So again, depending on the type of campaign you're running, be that sort of prospecting or retargeting, you can set this up dynamically. So if someone's hit a product page or hit an area on your website with a number of different products, setting up dynamic retargeting through shopping will enable you to retarget folks based on the products that they're most likely to potentially purchase based on past behavior on the website. And I'm coming on specifically now to dynamic retargeting, which is probably our most effective, capability in terms of driving conversions on Pinterest. And it's something that if you're running any type of performance activity, we'd encourage you to run dynamic retargeting alongside it. And it's effectively, being able to retarget people based on how they've engaged with the website, and specifically what products they've engaged with on the website. So for example, if someone's added that particular jacket or blazer to cart, but they haven't engaged, they come back on Pinterest and they'll be served obviously that product. Or equally, if you're marrying that up with a collections ad unit, you can engage them in other products as well based on the behavior that they've demonstrated on the website. So again, unbelievably effective tactic to use in a campaign, and will be one part of prospecting and maybe different objectives that you're running, but certainly one that shouldn't be overlooked. I see a question come in on the chat here. I'll just take. So how are home service businesses doing on Pinterest compared to product? I assume this would be, the likes of, I don't know, folks who are coming out to sort of service a home, repair or plumbing, etc. Which is how I'm interpreting that question. The answer to that would be quite well. I mean, we've a number of I suppose service-based advertisers on our platform that are running lead generation campaigns. So, not necessarily promoting products as such, but promoting, lead capture activations, and they're seeing, cost per leads as competitive, if not more competitive, than they're seeing on Facebook. And one of the reasons behind that is obviously the endemic nature of our platform. So, in terms of a chimney sweep business, being able to target people who are, maybe searching for home renovation ideas, or they're in a specific, they're searching for that specific type of category, or they're specifically, typing in things like spring cleaning and etc. And you're able to obviously target people who are putting in those search terms. It's going to be a lot different to, the folks who are on Google and searching for that particular business. So, likelihood is if you need a chimney sweep, you're going to type exactly in what you need and be served that ad. obviously for Pinterest, we're addressing a different area of the funnel. We're trying to reach people who are not necessarily in a chimney sweep state of mind, but they're in a home renovation state of mind or a spring clean state of mind. And again, that's a very sizable audience across multiple markets that you're able to engage and drive up that new demand. And again, the tone and the creative you'll use for our platform will be different to the messaging you have maybe on Google search or on Facebook in a retargeting group. But the answer is yes, you can run campaigns that are set up to drive signups or to drive lead capture. And that's something that we'll definitely be able to help you with. So just moving on and sort of, I suppose, tying this all together with the Payoneer offer that we have in place and the offer that Aaron mentioned at the offset. We've been working with Payoneer now for the last 18 months, and as I said, a lot of advertisers are seeing good success with our platform, and we want to obviously help expand that to more folks. So what we're offering now for the next quarter is that any advertiser or Payoneer customer that spends up to 5K before June 1st, they'll unlock an additional 1K in free media over the month of June. In addition to this, you'll have direct support with our account management team and an ongoing consultation with our team as well to make sure that you're actually seeing consistency in results. And before any campaign, we'll run through an onboarding flow with you to make sure that you're actually set up for success as well. We want you to maximize the value you see with that 5K and to spend beyond that, obviously. The goal here is to make sure that you're achieving you're hitting your objectives consistently on Pinterest. And as I said, we have a team in place to help support you to do that. I won't read this out line by line, but it just sort of outlines the specifics in terms of what needs to happen to engage with us, with this offer. So the first thing here is to set up a new Pinterest business profile and to share that with your account manager at Payoneer. And the reason for that is so we can actually get you set up on the Payoneer card and get your account sort of whitelisted so you can avail of this offer and add the offer into your actual account. Once we do that, you'll be able to start advertising. And before you do, we can set up an onboarding call and bring you to what needs to happen in terms of what you're trying to actually achieve on the platform. So we'll walk through your objectives. We'll outline exactly what you need to do on your account, be that add a Pinterest tag or add your shopping feed, or even just create the campaigns themselves. We'll walk you through that step by step. And as I said, your campaigns will be monitored on an ongoing basis. So if you're not seeing results, we'll do what we can to make sure that you're either sort of moving towards the right direction to hitting your goals, or that you're hitting your goals consistency, and we can walk down your costs over time. So that's it from me. I think there's one or two questions that have just been put into the chat, so I'll address them now. But if there are any other questions, just keep sending them into the chat, and we can see how many we get to. I think the first one there is around supplements, and can supplements be promoted as well? The answer to this would be sort of yes and no. So we have on Pinterest, we have fairly strict ad policy, which I'll share with you in the deck. It's going to depend on what those supplements are. We have quite a strict stance when it comes to weight loss supplements. But if they're supplements within the fitness industry, and they're more about health and well-being as opposed to specifically to weight loss, then those are supplements that you'd be able to promote. So it is just going to depend on the type of supplement and what the messaging is specifically. Yeah, perfect. If it's health and wellness, that's fine. That shouldn't be an issue. How would this work for NFT lead gen to build a Discord community? That's a great question. We are evolving our ad policy as it pertains to cryptocurrency and NFTs and that entire category. We have restrictions in certain markets. So right now in Europe, unfortunately, we don't offer lead generation to sort of drive towards anything cryptocurrency based. But in the US, you would be able to sort of run those. You'd be able to run those campaigns. So again, it's sort of a case by case, and we probably need to get certain ads pre-approved before you can run them. But in the US, you should be okay to do that. And again, this is something we'd be able to take offline. But answer will be yes in the US. Any other questions there, folks, from anyone? Again, feel free to ask anything, or if you need me to go back on any points, happy to do that as well.
Did you answer, Paul, the I think you might have answered the ones earlier on, home service business, and then if you answer the ones in the Q&A section.
Yeah, I think I'll just check the Q&A here again. Yeah, I've got this. Sorry, I missed this one. Are there any limitations in setting a third-party ad server, so click tracking? There are no limitations in doing that. So that is, in terms of limitations for third-party ad serving, no, there aren't any. You'll be able to put in click tracking in either at the ad level or at the campaign level or at the ad group level, and you can put in impression tracking or click tracking. Yeah, you shouldn't have any issues there. And then I think this was from someone anonymous: Pinterest and Amazon store linking. What are your thoughts on this? That's a good question, and it's something that comes up quite a lot. And again, this isn't unique to Pinterest. This is something that I know they deal with at Facebook and other platforms, TikTok and Snapchat as well. It's tricky. You can do it. So you can drive traffic directly from Pinterest through to an Amazon store that you have. However, the caveat on that would be that you wouldn't necessarily be able to track conversions. So you wouldn't necessarily be able to track conversions on that Amazon site, because obviously, you won't be able to generate the tag to put it on an Amazon specific site. So my answer to that would be you can do it. However, with the caveat that you won't necessarily be able to track conversions that you're driving. You'd have to rely on Amazon attribution. Yeah, you just answered the question there. So if you use Amazon attribution, you can track. That is true. I'll come back to your question in a second, Brian. But in terms of Amazon attribution, in terms of using things like our conversion optimized bidding capability, that's something that you wouldn't be able to do because it relies on optimizing towards our Pinterest tag as opposed to using Amazon attribution. But that might be something I'd be able to follow up with you on, and we can chat through it. Question here from Brian: if you run less than 5K in ad spend prior to June 1st, will there be any discount? That's something we could potentially look at. That we can be flexible to a degree in terms of that June 1st timeline. So again, we can have a discussion on that, Brian. Maybe next week or whenever you want to chat. But we can be relatively flexible when it comes to that. And this comes on to John's question then in the other chat around: is there a minimum spend? Is there a minimum for paid advertising? There's no minimum spend on Pinterest. And I suppose the reason for the 5K specifically is my assumption would be that folks want to drive conversions and unlock our conversion optimized bidding capability. So, the minimum spend piece would, you can put your daily spend at X and you'll generate Y essentially. And if you're trying to drive conversions, if your CPA goal, say for example on Pinterest, or your CPA goal in general is $20, what we recommend as a platform is to spend no less than about 4x your CPA goal per day per ad group. So what that means is obviously that you're going to be spending per ad group about $80. If you want to run that by 3 ad groups, that's about $240 per day. So you can see, and again, the more ad groups you add in, the more you want to actually do, the more objectives you want to run on, that means your daily budget's going to sort of increase and increase over time. So the reason for that 5K is A, to obviously make it commercially viable for ourselves, but B, most importantly for yourselves, is so you can get access to a number of different objectives, a number of different targeting capabilities, and also critically that you're spending enough per day, that you're generating enough conversions per day for our algorithm to work as effectively as possible. So the minimum spends are purely guide rails to ensure that you're sort of following or roughly following our best practice, particularly when you're running conversion-based activity. And that's specifically for conversion-based activity. But there's no minimum spend. Like, you can set up a campaign tomorrow and put it at $1 per day. Caveat to that is you're obviously not going to generate much in terms of engagement or conversions, etc. So there is a tipping point, obviously, as it comes to minimum spend. And, you know, what we can aim to do is set up one campaign, one ad group, and scale from there, which is what a lot of other advertisers will do when they just want to test the waters with us. So is there any other questions, guys? We want to throw them into either chat or the Q&A. I'll give a few more seconds there, a few more minutes maybe. What we'll do is we'll share this deck as well and make sure it gets to everyone that's in the that attended today. And again, you can see the steps at the end in terms of how to engage with us or how to kick off or activate that offer if you want to take a look at it. Okay, I think a few more seconds there. Okay, I think that should be it. I think some folks are dropping off. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. And as I said, if I miss anything or something pops into your head, obviously feel free to drop us a note or even engage your account manager at Payoneer, and we'll get you an answer. But yeah, looking forward to working with some of you.